Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Bargaining from the Hero High Book 3 by Mina, Chara, and this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. Wake up, Sleepyhead! Aya screamed in my ear. I jumped up and tumbled out of bed. I could hear Ashley laughing in the hallway. Ow! Come on, guys, why? I said, yawning. Ashley said you were cute half asleep. I wanted to see if he was right, said Aya. Ashley said that? My cheeks went red. I looked over to the doorway where Ashley and David stood side by side. David shook his head, but his eyes were smiling. Come on, Sleepyhead. We have eggs and bacon, Aya said, bouncing. You cooked? I asked. Ashley did. I raised an eyebrow and he shrugged. We'll be in the kitchen, Aya sang. A few minutes later, I fumbled my way into the kitchen wearing a hoodie I reserved for early mornings and a special time of the month. Aya finished her breakfast as I settled in, and David turned on the news before passing me the paper. In one of our first classes, Coach Flatt had explained why we all needed to stay up to date on the news. Ashley dropped a pancake onto my plate without a word. How come she gets your pancakes, but I had to cook for myself? Aya asked. Because she doesn't know how to cook, Ashley said with a sigh as he poured more batter into the pan. No way! You can't cook Friday? Aya dropped her knife like it was red hot and gaped at me. Of course I can cook, just not very well. At home, I always ate fast food or tried to cook. How come? I don't know. I'd never learned, I mumbled. Ashley flipped the newly formed pancake. I sighed. No one taught me, so thanks for the pancake. I hadn't sat around a table eating a breakfast someone had made for me since I was 9, and it was a really good pancake. A TV news report on a beauty pageant for cats gave way to a segment on last night's dinner. The story was thrown over to one of those panels. You know the kind. The women are all blonde, the men all have those touches of dignified gray at the sides. I could tell it wasn't going to go well. My teammates groaned. So last night we saw the upfronts, said a blonde with a serious case of helmet hair. They're bringing out some new stuff, including a whole new line of photo books called couple books. The man to the left nodded and continued. Yeah, apparently this is a thing now, he said as the head retreated into his neck and he made a meme-worthy face. Like, what's up with that? Asked the first blonde. I don't know, Gloria. I really don't, replied one of the gray men. Oh, and get this. The best moment of the night, or should I say, worst, pictures flashed up showing a small figure walking out of the restaurant. My teammates turned, though I wasn't sure why, until I caught up and realized we were looking at me. Reporters caught a glimpse of one of the students walking out. Not only that, but it seems she took her dessert with her. I returned the plate after I ate the cake, I yelled at the screen, so shut up! Aya lay a hand on my shoulder and patted my back to calm me, but the men and women on the TV panel had barely started. So this kid is Friday Fitzsimmons, and get this, she was the one with the bomb, and the one in the park with Dr. Dangerous? Exactly. She's an up-and-comer, but the way she's acting, I have to say this, but can I say this? I'm going to say it anyway. She was acting like a spoiled princess. There, I said it. Someone agrees with me for once, mumbled Ashley. That's not an insult, I declared. Everyone loves princesses. You're forgetting about the spoiled part, Ashley added. Spoil is something you do to someone you love, I told him. He sighed and turned off the stove. All I'm hearing is you're a princess and everybody loves you, Friday, I said. That's not what they're saying, Fitz, and it's definitely not what I'm saying, said Ashley. I bet she has some serious anger issues, said a voice from the TV. This is bullshit, I said, and slammed my knife and fork down on the table. This time my teammates looked concerned. Aya made no attempt to reach for me this time. The graying man sitting next to the helmet hair blonde smiled and nodded. Spoiled princess I could handle. Sure, I'd make a joke out of that, but anger issues? I wasn't going to put up with it. My knuckles tightened and started to turn white. How's she going to be a superhero with that sort of attitude? The man said. I mean, she doesn't even fit the profile. Look at her. She needs to put some effort into her looks. Smile a little. And what's up with what she's wearing? The woman next to him nodded. It wouldn't kill her to lose some weight, would it? My arms twitched at my side. It was hard to resist the urge to sweep the table and send everything on it clattering onto the floor. Ashley reached for the remote, and rather than switch the TV off, he turned to another channel. My brows shot up, and I sat back down as soon as I heard the music for Happy Magic Princess. I loved that show so much I hummed the theme tune as it played. Aya sighed and patted me on the back. "Oh my God, Happy Magic Princess! I love that show! How did you know?" "It was on your Hero High application form," Ashley told me. "There's a box at the bottom that says, 'Describe yourself.' Rather than do that, you wrote Happy Magic Princess and did a doodle of the main character. It was in your file." "Huh. I do not remember doing that, but that does sound like me," I admitted. "Now, I know how to calm you down, cook for you, and put Happy Magic Princess on." "You're not wrong, Ange. You're not wrong." I never got to see the end of the program. A phone call from Veronica sent us all scrambling for clothes and straight down to the Hero High Mall, where Coach Flat, the camera crew, and Veronica were waiting. Production assistants provided outfits for all of us, and as soon as we had changed, they put us on one of the large Hero Channel buses. This one was striped with adverts and the Hero High logo, but there must have been something wrong. I could hear Veronica shouting at someone below us. She was clearly unhappy, but I couldn't make out what exactly she was saying. The handlers' booths were covered with snacks, drinks, and various communications devices. From earbuds to trackers, they came in every different shade of flesh you can imagine. "What's this?" I asked Aya, hoping she would know. "Not sure. Invisible earbuds for on-site extras, maybe?" The lights on the bus spun out of control the same way they had when I'd been with Lisa and Barney. Jack's voice cut in. "Supervillain downtown." I rushed down the stairs behind my teammates. Veronica dashed to the handlers, all scanning their computers for a picture of the villain in question. A shaky camera showed up on all the screens, showing a short man clad in layers of thick wool standing on top of a building. "Short Fuse, veteran supervillain. His powers called explosive excretion." I nodded along with the rest of my team as they received the same information from their handlers. I tapped my phone and slipped on my mask with everyone else. Coach Flat turned to us and straightened his shoulders. "All right, kids, get out there and don't die if you want to live." "We're not there yet," said David. "What did you think? We'd drive you to the front door in our big hero bus?" replied Veronica. I jumped out of the bus as Aya was pushed out the door by Coach Flat, who then slammed it in her face. I looked down. My bike was hanging behind the bus, and I went to retrieve it. "You have a bike?" exclaimed David. "Of course. Don't you guys have one?" I asked, petting my junker of a bike. "No," Aya and David sang together. "Oh, well, you're going to need one. You can ride with me," I smiled. "You don't know how to cook, but you know how to drive?" David said, only to get nudged in the ribs by Aya. "Of course I know how to." I had to stop. Ashley also had a bike stowed behind the bus. It was much the same as mine, saved for just about everything. I had a junker bike. He had what looked like $1 million motorcycle. It had a stealth black paint job, a body I suspected was carbon fiber, and the most aerodynamic design I'd ever seen. He looked back at the rest of us in silence. "The more fans you have, Fitz, the better the equipment." "So why don't Aya and David have bikes?" I asked. "They didn't ask," he said as he pushed his glasses back up to the top of his nose. Aya raised a finger to protest and then decided against it. Instead, she pressed her finger to her communicator, mumbled something to her handler, and ran to the other side of the road. Her raised hand had something in it, but I couldn't see what it was. "Last one there's a rotten apple," she said, and threw what looked like a metal ball into the air. My eyes followed it like a dog. When I looked back to ask her what she was doing, she was gone. David waved at me, insisting I hurry up as Ashley climbed into his stupid stealth bike. I handed a helmet to David, and he wrapped his arms around me. Unlike Jake, he didn't seem to have any qualms about letting me drive. Ashley tore away in a flash. His engine sounded like a lion's roar, while my bike clattered into life, sounding more like an elderly, breathless toy airplane. David and I were the last to arrive. Aya stood at the base of the building, holding the same metal ball in her hand and ready for another throw. Ashley had stopped close beside her. I kicked my bike up onto the sidewalk just as he took off his helmet. David got off so fast he knocked the bike over. I leaned over to pick it up while the drivers behind us yelled curse words. We'd blocked the road. I kicked the bike stand up just as Ashley's gadget belt stuck itself to the side of the building. Ashley was already climbing. Aya had thrown her metal ball and disappeared into it, and David almost slid up the glass walls with the aid of sticky boots. Jake? I asked, touching my earbud. Yeah? Do I have any gadgets that help me scale buildings? I asked, already knowing the answer. Nope. I could also hear him lean back in his chair. Well, okay then, I said with a sigh. I blew a strand of hair out of my eyes and walked straight through the front door of the office building. Behind me, the cameraman seemed excited, as though someone had told him I had an ingenious way to get to the roof. Instead, I called the elevator. It was very dramatic. I was sure the editing team would add the sound of a choir and turn the door's ping into the gong before a fight to the death. The cameraman stood frozen for a moment. I shrugged, and he shrugged back before joining me inside. The doors closed and gentle piano music played. I spied a chocolate bar in his pocket and tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, buddy, you gonna eat that? I asked. The camera turned. It was much too big for the elevator. You get that I'm filming this, right? He said. Yeah, so I'm just asking if you're going to eat your chocolate bar. Geez, I mumbled. Go ahead. Really? I said, trying to hide the joy in my voice. Thanks, man. I picked the chocolate from his pocket, but I couldn't take the whole thing. I broke off a row of squares and set it back in his shirt pocket. Where's the other guy? I asked him. The cameraman who was following me when the doctor, he asked for a transfer. He's filming pre-planned stuff, he replied, swinging his camera around again. Why? Don't know. Guess he felt bad for running. I opened my mouth to reply, but the elevator doors pinged and the music stopped. In front of us, men and women sat at their desks, quite unfazed by the supervillain above them. A few people with headsets turned to look at me as I walked down the aisles of cubicles. Does anyone know where the stairs to the roof are? A man shushed me from his desk and shook his head. Sorry for shouting, I whispered. A woman pointed silently to a green exit sign. Oh, thanks. Thank you. Sorry again. My mouth was dry. I backtracked to the office kitchen and had a quick look inside the refrigerator. Leaving a $5 note in its place, I grabbed a cold can of cola and cracked it open. The cameraman's name tag said Kevin. I stopped and held the door open for him, feeling sure my teammates had already dealt with Short Fuse. For all I knew, they were tying him up at that very moment. There were 5 more flights of stairs between us and the door labeled exit. I pushed it open without delay and burst onto the roof like the Kool-Aid man. I'm here. What did I miss? I panted, resting my hands on my knees. My comms came on with Carrie Fry's voice coming through as he presented what was happening as a live show. I took my place next to my teammates. A short, gangly man stood in front of us, holding a woman by the collar. Who's this? Could it really be? Asked Carrie while Kevin captured all of our reactions to the scene before pointing the camera at our villain. It's Short Fuse, Jake's voice chimed in, cutting Carrie off. I'm looking at his file now. His power's explosive excretion. He sweats explosives. Sounds fun, I said. Couldn't quite picture what sweats explosives meant. Carrie cut in again to deliver the rest of his speech. Short Fuse is back, and he's ready to have a blast. And remember, folks, when he sweats, you sweat. How in hell were we supposed to beat a guy made of explosives? Maybe the trick was not to think of him as a walking bomb, but as someone seriously sweaty? Dry shampoo soaks up sweat. Can he force himself to sweat? I wondered. Help me! Yelled the woman he held by the collar. Aya ran forward as Short Fuse raised his hand. The sweat on his skin had solidified into off-white putty. David touched the edge of his visor, sending heat onto Short Fuse's palm. He dropped the gob of explosive, and Aya plain old kicked him in the face. Ashley nodded to the others and started to run around Short Fuse, distracting him from the rest of the team. Short Fuse lobbed a ball of explosive at him, but it fizzled and popped well before reaching Ashley. All it did was make a scary noise. I twitched in place, stopped only by a lack of understanding of what I could do to help. Aya ran in again. Short Fuse pressed a blob of the off-white substance to the woman's head and stepped back. I heard Veronica shout something. She sounded agitated, but I couldn't make out a word. One step further and she gets it. How you gonna get out of this one, kids? Said Short Fuse. Aya stumbled backward. And David lowered his hand. I had to be part of the team. I had to help. Jakey, what can you tell me about his power? I whispered. The flutter of pages and desk ornaments filled my ears until he cleared his throat. He's been a villain for nearly 10 years. Hates his name. Can detonate his explosives remotely by snapping his fingers. He can't produce sweat at will. He has to build up to it. What are his explosives actually made of? Let me see. There was another ruffling of pages and then a slam of his finger. It says the white stuff most closely resembles C3. I had to do something, so I did the only thing I could. I blinked, and everything stopped. My mind worked at super speed. I wasn't strong. I couldn't fly, but I could think. So think, Friday. So think, Friday.